So hi, welcome to Anchor Reviews. This is Tyler from Anchor Reviews.
And the Big Steve from the Big Steve YouTube channel and on Instagram.
And this is our review, belated review on Longlegs. So basically the thing was that we were originally going to review this movie when it came out that week, but Steven had an idea to go to this really cool movie theater called the Palm Springs Theater. And I've never been to it before, and yeah, it was a nice time. It was one to order food and that. So we went like week after that, and now we're reviewing it now because schedules get busy and that, and we'll try to get to reviewing Deadpool and Wolverine pretty soon as we can. But anyway, so Longlegs is this new horror movie that was written and directed by Oz Perkins, and it's about Agent Lee Harker, played by Mike Monroe, is trying to find a suspected killer named Longlegs, played by Nicolas Cage, in various murders involving various states. However, it relates to her own personal life as well. Should try to, not spoil anything. That's what I'm going to say about it. So anyway, what do you think of Longlegs?
Longlegs was an interesting film. It is kind of in a frustrating spot to me because I feel like you can't say really that the trailers and all the stuff that was being advertised that really gripped myself and a lot of other people, it didn't lie in a certain sense. Like the stuff that was shown that interested us was in the film, but the tone ended up being a much more, I guess you would say, methodical investigation where the high intensity, very horrific moments were kind of minimized throughout the film, or at least shortened greatly. And while I do think it did a very good job at, there's some people that have been saying, it's the new Silence of the Lambs, it's the greatest horror movie ever, and I can't agree with that. I definitely think it had a very interesting marketing scheme, and it was a interesting horror, I guess horror thriller mystery would be the rough encapsulation of the genre, but I do think it did creepy very well. So if you're into films that are kind of a slow burn, try to make you question where they're going, then I think you will like this film. It may not be the people that initially are attracted based on the marketing to the film, but people that do like movies like Seven or things along those lines, I think there definitely is a sizable audience for this. It's just not who you're expecting. And after seeing the film and permeating on it a little bit and reinvestigating certain parts of it, I think at first walking right out of the theater, I was a little underwhelmed. But now I've kind of settled, and I think after a little bit of time, it was a solid film. It's just expectation versus reality. So I'm sure we'll get into the spoiler talks and break down the performances of Nicolas Cage, Micah Monroe, and various other people. But I would say that this was a decent film that is worth seeing, but have your expectations more in the mind of a mystery thriller as opposed to something like Hereditary, for example.
Okay. And that segues to something that I like to talk about would have to be the acting and the characters. I really liked Mike Monroe a lot in this movie. As I said before, that is pretty cool to know that I actually met her before she became famous. And of course, we liked her a lot in the movie It Follows. I know you jokingly I mentioned she was getting this movie called Longlegs. He jokingly said that, you're referring to the actress?
Yeah.
Nickname, that's not what I meant, but it's pretty funny you brought that up. And I think Nicolas Cage was, of course, very good in this movie as the title character of the movie. I think his makeup, for the most part, was very good, except I felt like one thing that was kind of missing were his eyes. I felt like his eyes looked too regular. Like, you ever watch, a period piece movie, and it's like people weren't the best at hygiene, but their dental plan was spectacular.
Yes, exactly.
And that, so I felt like with the eyes, they should have done some of those eyes, like maybe make them yellowish, or maybe make them maybe bloodshot red. in a way. Like, if you look at Captain Barbosa or one of the pirates from the Pirates of the Caribbean franchise, they kind of did something similar like that to make him look extra creepy looking. I felt like that was just one thing missing from the makeup job for Nicolas Cage's performance. One actress I didn't recognize was Elisa Witt as Ruth Harker, the mom character. And I'm like, wow, she looks really old and kind of, horror movie looking.
Yeah.
Because I'm like, wow, didn't recognize her that fully until I saw the end credits. And believe it or not, Alicia Witt was not only the little girl in the, let's see, what was that 1980s version of Dune? Have you seen that? Oh, you haven't seen that one?
You mean the original Dune?
Well, I mean the first adaptation of Dune. The
So
1980s.
Dune by David Lynch.
Yeah, that's the guy. That's his name. Yeah, I just blanked on it. Yeah, she was in that, and I heard she was one of the actresses considered to play Mary Jane Watson in the Sam Raimi Spider-Man movies at the time. Another actress I recognized was Karen Shipka as Carrie Ann Camera. Now, she's in the movie briefly, and the way they had her hair cut really short and make her look very like horrid looking in that, I'm like, wow, I mean, she's younger than me, but she looks way older than me at the same time.
Yeah.
Which is weird. And, oh yeah, speaking of her and her last name, I looked at, so I guess the last name is Camera. Like, her parents are credited as Father Camera and Mother Camera. And that flashback scene where it shows, like, these murders happening. What was funny is that earlier on we see the FBI thing is like, okay, it makes sense to have a framed photo of, Bill Clinton because it's the 1990s. But then we flash back to when the parents are at the home, and for some reason they have a framed photo of Richard Nixon. It's like North Korea, where they're worshiping the dictator. I mean, are we gonna flash back even further to their grandparents' time and see like an FDR photo in their house too?
Could be, yeah.
Yeah, I thought that was silly. I pointed out to everybody, like, yeah, that was unintentionally funny.
Mm-hmm. No, I especially with the Bill Clinton one. And it being in the context of, like, Micah Monroe's boss being with her alone in the office for the first time and, like, so why should I pick you for the task force? I definitely got Monica Lewinsky, vibes going on. So that I'm sure was... I don't know if it was supposed to be humorous, but... I certainly thought it was, okay, this is a little sketch.
I imagine Bill Clinton would rather have Mike Monroe over Monica Lewinsky.
To be honest, who wouldn't? I'm sorry, Monica, but...
Well, Ariana Grande's ex-husband thinks that way too.
Yes, absolutely.
Since they're dating in real life now. But anyway, enough of the tangent, back to this thing. So should we get into the spoilers right now?
I think it's hard to avoid it, so it's probably around the time.
All right, so fast forward this part if you don't want to be spoiled. So the thing is that with the story, why I think the movie visually looks good, and I like the performances, and the pacing was excellent too. I didn't think this movie dragged at all whatsoever, which is nice. But there is one issue I have with this movie that really brings it down a lot for me, and that's the story. And the thing about the story is that I get buy into the whole thing of like, okay, some satanic magic is happening, it turns out the mother character is doing with this doll that possesses this family to go murder us on each other. But the fact that this agent, our main character, happened to be the little girl that was connected to this murderer, and the murderer happened to be living underneath her mom's house, and that her mom was connected to it, and she just so happened to be put on this case, and like... it's just way too many coincidences where it feels very novice screenwriter, like first year screenwriter novice in a way. And I know this is obviously not Oz Perkis's first go around with making a movie, obviously, but at the same time it just feels like, okay, that's way too simple, way too easy. Like I could buy the whole buying the whole thing of like, okay, satanic magic stuff happening, but the fact of all those coincidences, like it was that simplistic. I'm like, yeah, you lost me there.
I get you. Yeah, I think I had that initial reaction too, and as I've kind of revisited it basically comes down to the central premise: is the literal satanic possession too cheesy for you or not? And I think for a lot of people, the answer is yes. I think it's grown on me a little bit, but I also think it is a bit disappointing because how this film was marketed and kind of what we were led to believe. I kind of wanted more from Longlegs, not so much, oh, it's just the devil, and this film really did make it clear Longlegs is a servant of the devil. His part is done in Act 2, and the rest is just playing out based on his and the devil's plan. And
also, I got a possession going on.
Yeah, he's hemorrhaging. No, but no. I definitely think basically that is the fundamental. Do people have that suspension of disbelief, or do you not? And I kind of am so on it myself. I think that I think that basically the first two acts do a good enough job for me that I think it's done enough to at least make the vibes of the entire film throughout, in terms of the production, solid and creepy as a foundation and effective, as well as Nicolas Cage's performance. The sort of he was a great pick for the, I want to be weird in a sort of like, I could just show up naked and start singing and throwing things. Mm-hmm. He was a perfect casting choice for that. But I agree that there should have been certain things, thinking not to extrapolate too much to Silence of the Lambs, which was a direct comparison earlier, but I think if we got to see more without context of his plan in action from his perspective, but without the context, so building up to it, I think things like that would have been very much more what the film needed and add an atmosphere that was missing. And instead we kind of just get one perspective the whole way through, which in a traditional mystery sense worked, but it also kind of, from what we were expecting, it didn't flesh out the climax all the way. And understanding, there have been some people that I delved into after this film that went like full Zodiac Killer, decode all of this marketing stuff, and things in the film that were shown that probably on the first viewing we will miss, that really make it seem like basically in the head of Longlegs, he viewed himself as the Antichrist and possibly either the child that survives at the end of the film or Micah Monroe's character basically serving as the next step in that plan to achieve some sort of prestigious position of power and directly influence under the devil. Because especially with the daughter that survived the killings, her doll, I think, did not have the mind thing broken. Like Micah Monroe's characters, hers was broken, but the last child whose family was killed except for her doll did not have that happen. So there was this sort of, well, okay, could there be some lingering mind control thing going on? But ultimately, it ended up, I think, with kind of a lackluster ending, which does always affect things for the negative. But I do think, despite all of that, the performances were good, and this was a solid, at least for me, step up from Osgood Perkins' last film, which was The Black Coat's Daughter.
Also with Karen Shipka.
Yes, that was good as well, but this had a bit more scale to it that I liked. And so I'm curious to see further installments, because, I mean, this is the guy whose dad was the psycho, Norman Bates. So I think that this guy has a lot of potential, and with a little more revision and refinement and work with writers, maybe like Ari Aster, I think would be a great one to work with. They could cook up something brilliant, and this was just a step in that direction.
Okay. So what would you rank this movie, Steven?
So after a lot of thought, I would have to give this film grade of something between 78 and 80%. It wasn't full on B tier. I think it had that potential in it. But it ultimately, because the ending dropped off a little bit. And I still like it. Like, I never want to give the impression if something dips down into the 70s that it's mediocre, because I would give this a step above mediocre, but like there were problems that we talked about. And so I think that this is a film worth watching. Just have open expectations when you're going to see it, and definitely temper your expectations from the more horror slasher elements, because those are more minimized. But that's what I would roughly have to give it overall. What would you give it?
Well, personally, I thought the movie, again, as I said earlier, one of my praises for it was the fact that, of course, I liked the acting performances from the main cast. I liked the visual look of this movie. I think the pacing was excellent. For me, what really holds this movie back and really does make it disappointing for me and also dips pretty low is really the story, and how like everything was like overly convenient in ways, and that, and certain aspects of like supernatural stuff in the story I could buy into. It's just that the problem was that the story wasn't the best as it could have been to flesh that out, and with certain other revelations, and towards the end, without spoiling anything, like the climax of the movie, what happens kind of came off as unintentionally funny, like kind of comical, like almost borderline scary movie franchise vibe to it.
There were
for me, but
several moments like that throughout the film. To be fair, very just like zany one. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah. So anyway, as for Longlegs, I would give it about 2 stars out of 4.
Okay, interesting.
Yeah. Interesting. So, before we wrap this up, we should really talk about what are our thoughts on doing a dining experience at this movie theater we saw it at.
Yeah, so we're transitioning to the review of the theater. The theater itself is very cool, and the people that work there work. Well, I can't vouch for all of them, but like the cooks in there, they worked hard, and the food was good. There should be a more disciplined regiment, I would say, though, of, especially for something like, I don't know, a horror movie like the one we saw, to only have them come in at certain parts for certain lengths of time, and maybe even have options like order your food before the film. Order your film during the, or order your film. Order your food.
Order your film.
Or order your.
We're pirating the stuff here. Yeah. They secretly pirate to give me the bootleg copies of the movies of that. Like, want to take this sample home?
True. It's like the a cheesy like second or third world VHS copy, and instead of long legs, it's legs long or something.
Oh, that. Speaking of that. I just looked into it. That reminds me of, the history behind how X-Men Origins Wolverine got leaked?
I do not off the top of my head.
So, the then owner at the time of 20th Century Fox, Rupert Murdoch, wanted a copy of the movie into New York City. But the problem was that this was back before like digital age took off. So, they were trying to make this DVD happen, but they didn't do it properly or whatever it was. And it was in the storage thing, and some guy who was working there like, oh, this looks interesting, so I decided to burn a copy of it on DVD, and then somehow it got multiplied, and it was being sold in that, and it was being shown up online, and then like, oh great, they eventually found the guy, obviously, when that happened, and it's debatable how much money that movie ended up losing because of the leaked thing. The leaked movie coming out. And this is more like a work print cut, because the movie obviously wasn't finished. You can see like maybe a clip of it on YouTube when it's Wolverine and Sabretooth versus Deadpool. So it's interesting to look at this work print cut that's unfinished, but
and the poor guy had to pay for all the losses out of his pocket, I'm sure.
Okay, but back to what you're saying.
Yeah, no, but what I was saying is the staff should definitely have some sort of regiment for horror films, let alone other genres, to come in at certain points. Also, I don't know, maybe not stand in the middle of the aisle, or have hair length requirements so it can't stand up like you've been electrocuted, and block half of the screen.
Or like one of the servers used to say like, oh, look at What's his name?
Yeah, he had this big afro, and it was like looking through a tree line. Just come on!
Yeah, Bush. He had this like silhouette here, looking like the Afro Samurai. You said look like Leon Trotsky.
Yeah. No, well, also it was just you could hear him walking, so I was like Trotsky over here. So,
Leon Trotsky. That's
coming through, trotting along. But yeah, no. Also, he was a tall guy. I'm sure he meant well, and he was probably new, but it was irritating when like one of the first jump scares happened. Yeah, what would you like to eat? Please leave the earth, preferably right now.
Yeah, one of the people in our group said that it was one horror scene that was ruined because I overheard one of the waiters saying like, "Would you like honey mustard with that?" I mean, thankfully we got our orders like early on done when the trailer started playing that.
Mm-hmm.
In fact, they were playing the trailer for that Crow reboot, which I'm like, oh, I kind of like the trailer. I planned on seeing this movie, but it was kind of interrupted because we're trying to order stuff and that, so I had to watch on the trailer on YouTube later. And the thing is, I mean, we got our stuff last, which is odd. Like, everyone else ordered theirs later, and they got theirs kind of first, but we had to wait a while before our stuff, even though we're some of the first people to order.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I this new version of The Crow will be interesting, where they cast a guy from the South named Jim as...
And remember I was pointing out to you how the Crow from It's a Wonderful Life, and also the same Crow from Son of Dracula, his name was legitimately Jimmy the Crow.
Yeah. Things that make you look back and go, But yeah.
It's hilarious. But then again, it's the same decade that gave us the first Batman serial short where we had this actor in yellowface as Dr. Daka, and it was basically World War II propaganda.
Fair. Very fair.
Yeah. But yeah, I mean, the theater itself, it's nice and that. It's just that I think it's better just to go to a movie theater without the ordering stuff, or better yet, just pre-order your food in advance. Like, have that option, because I thought that's what was going to happen when we order tickets, like pre-order our food in advance. I'd rather have that option done. And yeah, I mean, I'm also watching the thing too. I'm like, okay, I'll do like an icy or something like that. I'm like, yeah, I think I'm not going to do ices from now on, because it's not the best when you're trying to drink drinking that's icy and also eat food at the same time. By the way, those quesadillas are great. They're really big and thick. But yeah, it's weird how it took so long to get the food ready in that. And it's annoying when it's like they're trying to clean up in that, when like scenes are happening too. It's pretty distracting when that happens. And it's very like themed auditoriums. I know we were in the Academy Award one, and when we were just about to leave, I stood up and said, "I like to thank the Academy."
It's true.
It was like a perfect, moment for me to do that, because why not?
It was perfect. Just missing Bruno coming down on angel wings and teabagging. On the
was that Eminem? He did that.
Yeah,
too,
I think he did it to Eminem.
Who was it?
Yeah, I think it was Eminem who he teabagged. Moments in history we all remember, or at least I do. But.
All right. So anyway, this is Tyler from Encore Reviews
and Daddy Longlegs. No, it's the Big Steve from the Big Steve YouTube channel and on Instagram.
And we hope you enjoyed this video, and we hope to might make a lot more in the future. Please like and subscribe.